Aloha, beautiful beings, and welcome to another episode of the Yoni Havana podcast, where we explore consciousness, looking into how things work in the universe, so we can enjoy life more and become more whole. In today's show, we have a very unique and eye-opening conversation with Efrat Fenigson, one of my most cherished resources to know what is actually going on in Israel. She's an independent journalist, podcaster, and public speaker based in Israel, and her mission is to uncover hidden truths and serve as a bridge between Israel and the world. In this episode, she shares insights into her personal and professional journey, including personal resilience. She shares how being outcasted and ridiculed helped her find deep inner strength, journalistic approach. Efrat connects the spiritual and physical aspects of life through her journalistic methods, and overcoming challenges. She discusses facing criticism and hate, recognizing and releasing fears, and the importance of inner work for Jewish and Israeli people to overcome victimhood and trauma. Before we dive into this episode, I'd like to invite you to explore two experiences that I'm passionate about. First is a fairly new product I recently launched with my mentor, Dr. Aubrey Degnan, which is called Arising Awareness Sessions. If you're on a path of self-discovery and seeking deeper connection, these sessions are for you. Ideal for those stuck in personal growth, navigating inner work alone, seeking connection with like-minded individuals, or curious about enlightenment. Rising Awareness Sessions help you connect with your inner nature and realize the wisdom of oneness. These sessions include meditations, breathwork, collective vulnerable shares, individual deep dives, and spiritual teachings. Through self-observation, thought awareness, and mind quieting, you'll cultivate a deeper understanding of yourself in the present moment. Benefits include healing emotional, psychological, and physical trauma, reducing stress, expanding consciousness, and enhancing your overall well-being. You'll gain a sense of purpose, strengthen relationships, and align with your soul's mission. Visit our website, arisingawareness.net, to start your transformative journey. Second, if you're a man ready to transform your life and connect with your authentic self, I want to invite you to the Men of Integrity Retreats, a profound 4-day journey towards authentic manhood. Led by Michael Tierno and me, Yoni Havana, these retreats help men embrace integrity, heal past wounds, build a supportive community. Discover what it means to be a man of integrity, taking responsibility, speaking kindly, acting with honor, and embracing vulnerability. Our retreat includes deep dives into personal growth, ceremonies for healing, and workshops on lifelong learning. Connect with like-minded men and become a better husband, father, and leader. Visit our website, moi.community, to learn more and take the next step toward your next evolution. Now, on to the show. Sit back, relax, enjoy this enlightening conversation with Efrat Fenigson. Aho. Efrat, thank you for coming on to the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Yanni.
It's incredible to have you here with me and the audience. I cannot remember how I found you, but I'm very glad and very grateful that I have. You are a unique and an amazing asset to Jews, Israelis, and people all over the world, living what seems to be your newest mission in this incarnation. And to me, really, you came at a very important time as an Israeli, as a Jew, especially who lives outside of Israel. In the past few months, we're at the end of May 2024 right now, we have experienced as this type of identification of one of the most traumatizing events and times, and very confusing and very, thought-provoking, and a lot of questioning is happening within me and a lot of people. And a lot of people, I think, on the same breath, are so wounded that they don't even want to question. And so I'm very grateful for what you're doing. I watched a few of your episodes and I was just enthralled, and then I keep following you on Telegram and WhatsApp to get all kinds of updates. And today I want to talk about a few things. But first, I'd love for you to briefly introduce yourself and what you're doing and why. That'll be great to set the stage for our audience.
First of all, thank you so much. This is not taken for granted. I'm speaking to a lot of people on a lot of platforms, and I get a lot of stage time, but it's quite unique that someone acknowledges what I do today, like my mission and what I do. And it's very special to me because this is new for me. It takes shitloads of courage to be doing what I'm doing. And I'm always very, very moved to understand that people get value out of my work. And I have been working for people for, I don't know, since I can remember, for 30 years. But only in the last 3 to 4 years, when I started working for the people and not just anyone, I feel like I make a difference. Like I make a very big difference. And hearing this from you is very important for me. So thank you. So you wanted me to introduce myself?
Well,
What did you?
I'd love for you to speak briefly about, as you're saying, is part of this mission, how you came into this mission, and
Right.
what is this mission that you're on, and how.
What is the mission? So let's start with what is it?
Mhm.
So I think my mission is to reveal or uncover hidden truths from the wide public, from the public, from people who actually want to see what's being hidden from them. And that's my main mission and my goal. And I would say my secondary mission is to act as a bridge between Israel and the world. And I'm not just saying Israel as the state of Israel. I'm talking about the community or the group of people in Israel who are awake to some of the lies, or at least some of the lies that are happening, that we're living today, and have a need to be connected to like-minded people or souls
Yeah,
around the
Efrat.
world. And
Oh,
whether it would be to not feel alone, or it would be to actually strengthen their role in all this, I don't know how to call it, journey, shit show. So that bridge, because of the because of my global nature, I would say I'm based in Israel and I speak both languages, and I have audience all over the world and in Israel, and I try to communicate what's happening around the world to Israelis and vice versa, and take what's happening in Israel and bring it to the world. Not everything, obviously, the areas or the topics that I focus on. And so I decided to dedicate my life today to becoming an independent journalist. That shift happened formally less than 2 years ago. And informally, I think I started it about 4 years ago. But it really became institutionalized, and it's the only thing I do in the last year and a half to 2 years. Um, in my previous life, in my previous journey, I was a corporate CMO, chief marketing officer of global companies. I was a career-oriented female executive, single mom. I was very much well known in the Israeli community and the tech community, working in startups and having a really good reputation. I was also one of the partners in a community called GCMO of 150 CMOs like myself in global companies in Israel, like the biggest and best global companies out of Israel, and a very successful career, behind me, a nice high paying job, and a lot of people who appreciate me and invite me to participate in all kinds of events globally and locally. And my life has really taken a turn since I decided to, well, I don't know if I decided. It just happened, right? So that change happened, and then I had to choose it. Yeah, I resisted it for a bit, and then I embraced it. It became much, much easier. And today I've completely um, dedicated myself to my new mission of speaking out and providing a stage first and foremost for myself, for my voice, and then to anyone else that I think who is worthy of telling the truth about a certain topic. I do that through my podcast. I write on my blog, and I write also in a newspaper in Israel that is not censored. I write for other publications or magazines overseas. I cover topics such as health, like COVID and everything that's happening currently as we speak with the World Health Organization, for example, globalist organizations and their different agendas, climate crisis, which is not a crisis, the money hoax, the money agenda, which to me, the money lie is the biggest lie of all, because it's the underlying oxygen that we breathe in our day-to-day lives, and people are simply not familiar with how the money is basically what is building the matrix that we live in. So that's the fabric of the matrix. And so the money hoax is the biggest hoax of all. And so I went really deep down that rabbit hole, and I continue to learn, research, and educate myself all the time so that I can pass that knowledge to other people. And through there, I also managed to introduce to my audience solutions, which is really cool, not to just focus on problems, but also on solutions. And I intertwine, I think, into my work, into my interviews and my journalistic work. I always intertwine some spiritual work and obviously my values that that carry me forth. Yeah, so yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's my mission, and that's yeah, I don't know. Ask me something.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that so far. Um, how do you feel? Do you feel supported in your new mission?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I definitely feel that I need to be supported, and I had to become much, much stronger in the last 3 years and find strength within so that I can stand and hold a very complex, difficult space on my own without any support from the outside world. Because I've experienced a lot of outcasting or ridiculing and shaming and naming and all that bullshit in the last few years from communities or people that I used to hold very dearly. Some of them were my friends as well. And so just for speaking out or for holding worldviews that were different to what most people held, or at least having the courage to speak about them, even if other people thought like me, they were not courageous enough to voice it. And so I experienced a lot of that outcasting. So I had to really let myself break down and find the strength from within to hold myself there and know that I am supported, not just from the outside external world, but also from within and from my spirit and my higher self, which is guiding me. And I have that today. I mean, I experience hardship just like all of us from time to time, but it does not break me down. It does not shake my world anymore. I have a lot more strength than I used to because of that exercise of my I don't know what it is, my karma sending me to really tough places, to giving me a lot of challenges so that I can develop that strength. And I'm lucky and fortunate to have a small group of really good friends and also my boyfriend and my partner to be on the same wavelength as me and support me during this process, even in times where I experienced criticism from my family or, you know, from people who were really, really close to me. So I always had that small group of friends that are with me and became like my new family, which is amazing, not taken for granted. And lastly, I get all the time, it comes in waves, right? But all the time I get these waves of love and appreciation from my audience, my followers, or people that I've never seen that write to me or send me messages or support me financially even, and telling me how much I make a difference in their lives. It happens in waves, and sometimes it happens like every day for a period of time, and sometimes there's like a break and then it starts again, and it reminds me again why I'm doing what I'm doing and that I'm actually making a difference in people's lives. This I'll give you an example. This When was it? 2 years ago, I went to a conference in the UK. It was a health related conference called the Better Way Conference, not just health, but mostly health. And I was covering it. I was writing and interviewing people, and I had to take a break, so I went to the back of the big conference room of like 500 people in the room, and I'm sitting there on the floor just like stretching my back and listening to the person speaking on stage, and then this woman is sitting next to me, and it's almost dark because it's a conference room, and she's looking at me and she goes, "Efrat?" She's British, right? She's like, "Efrat?" Funny name of saying my name. I'm like, "Yeah." She's, "Is that you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it's me. How do you know me?" I'm like, I never understand how people know me. And she goes, "What do you mean? I've been following you throughout COVID, and I've been getting all your videos and looking at everything you do. Sometimes I just open Twitter just to see what you've written. And during that time of COVID, your messages gave me so much hope and so much strength. And here I was, like, waking up feeling sorry for myself for having to go through lockdowns or all the shenanigans that they put us through. And there you are in one of the toughest places in the world, sharing what's happening in Israel and how crazy they are there and what you're going through during that time." And I kind of snap out of it and tell myself, "Why are you feeling sorry for myself? Look at, the people in Israel and what they're going through, and find some comfort in not the fact that there are people that are suffering more than you, but just that if they are being so strong and hopeful, then you can be too." And then
Mm.
you gave me so much strength to carry on with the day and to live life from a much more empowered state. And and she started crying as she's telling me that. And then I gave her a hug, and we stayed in touch until today. But I never, it happens to me from time to time that I find people, or they find me, where they follow me and they share how much strength and power I give them. And I am surprised every time, because when I do it because there's this weird force within me that just has me do what I do, with sometimes without really knowing. Sometimes I ask myself, why do you do that? Why do you show up and speak, or interview that person, put it out there? It's too much being out there. And then when I hear feedback like that, I know why I'm doing it. I know I need to do it because
Mm.
not enough people do that, and people need to be to be acknowledged right now. To get some strength from someone, they need to have some sanity around them. They need to hear voices like that. There are not enough of that. There's a lot of craziness around us and not enough sanity. Ooh, my light decided
Yeah,
to turn on. Did you see that?
yeah, I saw that.
Maybe it's just light turning on as I speak.
So,
So
s-
yeah.
so let's, since the last thing you said, there's a lot of craziness, not a lot of sanity. I actually want to take a bigger perspective here. you describe a force within you that, let's say, that your mind may not logically understand why that energy directs you to do certain things. There's a lot of craziness. We can, the way you describe it in the world, not a lot of sanity or logical thinking. What you talked about the Matrix. What do you think is going on here on planet Earth? Are we living in harmony? Are we living in disharmony? Is this all God's will? Are we part of God? What are some of your spiritual perspectives on the experience we're having right now on Earth as humans?
Right. I think we're in a very, very special time for humanity. I don't know if such a time existed before. From my learnings and from my experiences and my and the spiritual teachers that I have that I resonate with and feel like they're giving me information that is useful, I feel like we're in the process of shifting or ascending in human consciousness, and that journey is waking up a lot of people in the world. It starts with Gaia waking up. It starts with, shifting and raising the vibration of Earth, and the frequency of Earth. You can see that if you follow, I always like to connect the spiritual and the physical. So I follow the Schumann resonance, looking at actual measurements of how much light is coming down to Earth and how much the vibration of Earth is changing and rising and can reach at times 40, 50, 60 hertz, which is unheard of. Like historically, in the last 50 years, it was measured on an average of 7.83 hertz as the average vibration of Earth, the average frequency of Earth. And so in the past few years, there's a real big change on how much the frequency of Earth is rising. And when you measure that physically, but then on the spiritual level, you feel it. You feel that something is shifting and changing. You feel that, I'll speak for myself, my human consciousness is evolving. It's expanding all the time. My ability to develop in a very short period of time, not just intellectually and physically, but also spiritually and mentally, and absorb a lot more and take in a lot more and hold it. That ability is something new for me. I've never had that. I don't think there was any gym that prepared me for that. I don't think there was any therapist or book that I read or anything that have prepared me for that real experience in my life. The ability to hold more of everything, hold more information, hold more sensations, more experiences, more emotions, more events that are happening, more memories, and also more people, like supporting more people. This is something new for me. So, and I see that in other people too. And I feel like, just like I'm a journalist and researching and looking at phenomena and events around me, I look at humanity around me and try and assess and try and observe what's happening to humanity. And it's a real shift in consciousness that we go through. Now, I feel like we're in the middle of a dark versus light war. And the, and I don't think that it's going to go away anytime soon. I think it always has been here. I think it's just now coming to the surface. I think the amount of light that's coming to Earth and the frequency of Earth that is rising is kind of not not uh not allowing anything to stay hidden. It's kind of exposing everything. It's just like when when water is boiling and you've got the bubbles that are coming out. There's nothing you can do to stop that. stuff is coming out. It's like when you clean something with steam, a lot of dirt comes out. That's the kind of experience I have about the period of time that we're living in, we're living through. And I think that, I read a lot of books, I'm listening to a lot of great teachers, like, for example, Barbara Marciniak and the Pleiades, and Lori Ladd and others. And I feel like a lot of their wisdom is resonating with me, and a lot of the things that them and people like Dolores Cannon, for example, have been speaking of for ages and from a long time ago is kind of what we're going through right now. That acceleration, those changeover years, those years where we transition from an old era into the new era. The Pisces era is ending, and the age of Aquarius is starting. There's a lot of truth that's coming out. There's a lot of hidden lies that are being exposed, a lot of crimes. And I think that humanity is being exposed to the fact that it's been living in a world of control and slavery in a way. Now that control and slavery is it used to be the manifestation of it used to be just physical, where you would see actual slavery, right? In our history, actual slaves. And as humanity today, we tend to think that we are progressive and that we have come a long way since then, and there's no more slavery in the world. And that's a big mistake, because it's just shape shifted. And slavery is still with us. We live in a world of control, and we are mental slaves. We live in a consciousness of slavery, and we are being, and the worst thing is that we live in a consciousness of slavery added by victimhood. And so, and the machine or the system that is designed to have us be such slaves is such a powerful machine and so sophisticated. And every century or so, it's becoming even more sophisticated. And so if in the past people would admit to be slaves just because they had shackles on their feet, and they were sold to someone and they had no freedoms, today you have to be very brave and very sophisticated to distinguish and to identify that you are a slave still, just without physical shackles or without being sold to anyone explicitly. But implicitly, we are being sold, whether it would be through our financial system that is enslaving us, or through other systems like the health system, the education system, and many other systems that all work together in beautiful tandem in order to keep us small and keep us contained, and only following the path that those who control us want us to follow. So I think we live in a very special time where that raise in frequency and rise in consciousness gives us the opportunity or the choice again and again and again to choose to wake up and say the truth to ourselves about the way we have been living, about the world, about our reality, our 3D reality, and about the atrocities or, crimes or corruptions that are around us. Basically, observing the evil, the darkness, right? In order to swim through it and get out the other side stronger and more prepared to handle that darkness. And I feel that, we're giving that opportunity and that choice time and time again, and it will continue escalating and accelerating in the next few years. I have a feeling it will take another, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years until it calms down, where more and more crises or emergencies or, tough events are going to unfold around the world, so that humanity finally, hopefully, shifts. Now, I don't think everyone is capable of shifting. I don't think everyone wants to shift. It's a free will universe, right? It's a free will world, planet. So people can choose if they want to or not. Sometimes they choose consciously, sometimes it's unconscious and their soul is choosing for them. But I actually see it with my own eyes. Not everyone can wake up. Not everyone have the power or the will to face those truths. It's difficult. It's very difficult. And some people leave us without waking up, and it's fine. And some people are with us also without knowing, and I think they also serve a purpose. Like they serve their role in, maybe, I don't know, maybe just holding the frequency without intellectually or mentally understanding everything that's happening. But I truly feel that the journey of awakening is not complete when you are traveling just one path. If you are just on the spiritual path and you feel like, you're spiritually awakening, and you do all these ceremonies and read the books, and I do that too, right? I love it. It's a beautiful path, and it's the path that I would have loved to just walk on. But if you just do that and you are not aware of the information and the knowledge, and you're not walking the information path, I would say, or the mental path, then you're lacking something, because you can escape very easily to the spiritual, the good spiritual stuff, to save you from the what's happening around the world. And I my best analogy for it is, this is what I use. I'm afraid of swimming in the sea on my own if the sea is a bit rough. And my boyfriend he's a captain of a boat, and he's a seaman. He's a fisherman as well. He's a sea person, and he taught me one day how to swim in the high waves.
Yeah.
It's funny because here I am, like 40 years old or whatever. A few years ago it was. And he's teaching me, like, how I'm supposed to dive into the wave and come out the other side, and how I was always really scared of letting go through the wave. And so he taught me, like, he was holding my hand and telling me what to do, and we were practicing, and before I knew it, I was, like, diving into the waves and getting out the other side, and felt much, much stronger. And I felt so ecstatic and happy when I managed to accomplish that. So I feel like looking at your biggest fears and looking at the troubling, disturbing information that is in front of us about what's happening around the world is a little bit like being in front of that big wave and being afraid to just dive in through the wave. You have to go through the darkness, the shit, in order to come out the other side and understand that you've made it. Okay, you've passed that test or that lesson. And you don't have to hold the fear anymore. You can let go of the fear. Yeah, you see, yeah, it's not nice. It did not transform the wave to be any less powerful or, sometimes dangerous, but you're not controlled by it anymore. Right? So it frees you up from that control. So yeah, so that those are the kind of choices that I think we get during this very interesting and singular special time that we live through now.
Your analogy made me think of my spirit animal that I speak about on the podcast, the bison, who instead of running away from the storm, just decides to go through the storm. Let's deal with the shit right now and go towards the rainbow and sunshine as quickly as
Mm,
possible, rather than having the anxiety, anticipation of the shit is coming, the shit is coming, the shit is coming. And yes, there may be some reprieve and relief for a short amount of time, but it keeps hovering. So let's just get
yeah,
that mental and
yeah,
emotional anxiety out of the way, and let's effing deal with it, And
exactly.
I find it to be more efficient, and more productive on a spiritual level, on a physical level, emotional, mental.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious if you have any current fears in life that you can speak about.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with my yeah, it's gonna sound funny because that's what I do for a living, but it's still with me and I have to be honest and authentic about it. It's still the fear of showing up and speaking out is still there with me. And I'll try to explain because it may sound really strange, but you do that every day, almost every day. Um, I feel like I'm being challenged to take my voice to the next level and to take my work to the next level. And I know that in the next level, I have to stop worrying about what it's going to sound like and whether it's perfect or not and how it's going to affect, I don't know, what people think of me. Not in the sense of what they think of me. I don't give a fuck anymore about, what they think of what I
Mhm.
say. It's like, is it going to be the right thing for my business, for my brand? I'm very careful. And that carefulness, that it makes me heavy. Like it makes me, slow down and think about everything, analyze it too much, and it comes out of fear. I know that, and so I'm dealing with that because I know I need to let go of something there. There's something that I'm still holding on to, and in a way I'm afraid to be all out, to be like to just let myself go and just trust myself fully and not prepare for everything I do so much because I prepare a lot. Yeah, and it's gotta be perfect. So, it's like that fear of failing. It's not like failing big time, it's like those small failures, but it keeps me heavy and it keeps me I'm still playing the old game, so there's a challenge there for me. I want I would've I would've answered that I have a fear of being left alone, but I don't think I have that so much anymore because I've been training myself in the past year and a half to be a lot on my own. I'm a mother to a 14-and-a-half-year-old boy who I've been raising on my own most of my life. I was a single mom since he was 1 year old. His father lived in Australia, where I met him and where I was before. And I was living in Israel with him since he was 1 year old. And about half a year ago, he decided that he wants to move to Australia and live with his dad. So that was a huge breakdown for me. And I completely broke down. I can't tell you that I was afraid to be left alone, but I was afraid to lose him. I was afraid to lose my son. And I was also afraid of, for a short period of time, I'm becoming way better at giving up fear. So for a short period of time, I was afraid of, what does it mean about me as a mother? Was I not a good mom and all that bullshit? But I knew that it's bullshit pretty quickly. So I let that go, and then I had to handle the fear of staying on my own. And so instead of, fighting the decision and fighting him and fighting the situation and fighting his dad and fighting everyone, I knew that I don't want any more energy of war or fight in my life. So I'm going to surrender to this, and I'm going to just see where it takes me. So I packed my suitcase and I went to Australia to spend time with him and with my ex-husband, and just see his new life, where it's going to be, how it's going to be like, and assess everything, in order to tell myself that I have to let go and give him what he wants because it's good for him. And that's what I did. It was very tough. It was way earlier than what I would want to or anticipated, but I was and I broke down to pieces. I was crying like a baby. I had, a lot of fears coming out of, being a mother, and my role as a mother, having to guide him and be there for him and not being able to do that anymore. And what does it mean about me as a person? Does he not like my guidance or my presence? Am I, too much for him? Is his father better than me? All that, yeah, all that internal discussion. So I had a lot to process and to deal with, to confront. And I took the time in Australia, and also another 1 month in Thailand on my own, alone. And yeah, and I came out of, I was diving into that wave, and I took it head on. And here I am, like, on my own in my house without him, speaking to him on the phone almost every day. And I'll probably be seeing him twice a year now. Um, and I'm okay because it doesn't mean anything about me.
Mm.
And it was a tough one. It was a very tough one, very tough challenge that I was given. So that was a fear.
Thank you for sharing. And sounds like you're doing a good job and leaning into it and really honoring the emotions and everything and the thoughts that come with it.
Oh,
So
so many.
yeah, that does sound heavy. You said a couple minutes ago that he didn't want to be in a war and fighting in regards to your son leaving. Well, you live in Israel and you're an independent
Hmm.
journalist in a place that is currently in war, has been in many wars, and we can say, at least objectively or subjectively, that it's there's a lot of fighting going on. As a veteran from the country who served during a war, I have some experience, and so you do put yourself in some sort of a fire. One by
Yep.
leaving in Israel, and also by being immersed in exposing truths. How does that go for you in terms of not wanting to be in fighting and war, and also doing your role in the world?
Wow. That's a good question. So, first of all, my role here is to practice in walking in the fire without getting burnt. That's how I see it. I live in a place that is literally burning. It's burning me, it's burning everyone. It's literally burning people. I don't need to tell you or the audience of what kind of atrocities are happening as we speak, or have been happening in the past 7, 8 months. And it's very, very tough to hold and contain everything that's happening. So I feel like I have the duty of, first of all, walking on that burning path without getting burnt, and walking in the fire without getting burnt, seeing everything I'm seeing, understanding what I interpret or what I am understanding, and reporting, and then, taking it all in and then reporting it. Or I'm not reporting everything because I'm not a war journalist, but I did come out on October 7th and talked about everything that was happening in length for a few weeks. I was covering everything that happened on October 7th, and it was a very tough um, task that I took on myself. Um, and I got a lot of heat and hate for it from a lot of people in Israel mostly. Around the world, I was embraced in a way because I was presenting a point of view that was a lot more balanced and empathetic to people on both sides that are getting hurt and are innocent and being a victim of the whole situation. But I was calling out the things that didn't add up um, here in Israel. And I was connecting that to a lot of the information that I have about the different types of global agendas and global control that we're experiencing in the past few years. And so doing that is difficult, but and from time to time, I report about things that are happening here that are related to the war. I don't cover it every day. It's my conscious choice not to do that because I don't want to immerse myself in war content all day, every day. That's too much for me. So I know my limit. I know my capacity and what resonates with me and what doesn't, and that doesn't. So I limit it and I cover it from time to time when I feel in my tummy that that's something I should talk about. Right? They've built a a port in Gaza. They started building a port in Gaza for humanitarian aid. Stuff there didn't add up for me, so I wrote about it and I talked about it. Why are they doing it this way, not that way? What are the plans behind it? That was just recently. Um, Information about October 7th is coming out. I try to share it. But I have to be careful because the government in Israel is on people's back about criticizing the Israeli, um, the state of Israel and the government decisions and policies about the war. And they've put in place a lot of regulation or emergency acts in order to control our freedom of speech and what we do share and what we don't. So for example, what I did is I did like a video article and a written article about that, about how they're limiting our freedom of speech and what kind of regulation they're putting in place in order to um, control the narratives and control the information that's coming out. And I spoke a little bit about the misinformation, disinformation related to the war from both sides. And in general, I call for freedom of journalism and freedom of speech from the Middle East, which means that I will again be criticized and hated by a lot of people here in Israel because one of the things I would say, and I keep saying, is why is Israel closing Al Jazeera, for example, right? And people here in Israel would say, most people in Israel would say, Al Jazeera is a terrorist organization. They help terrorists to perform their terror acts. And I won't go into the details, but I would say this is still a news organization. It doesn't matter what I think about them and their quality or their reliability, um, or if I trust them or not. If you do that with one journalist, and you do that with many journalists around this conflict, and you do that with a news channel or a publication, then this is a slippery slope and we're losing our freedom of speech. Not that I don't know it, but I want to show the public that that's what's happening. Unfortunately, a lot of the people are cheering up for war and for silencing and for anything that would allegedly protect them, not understanding that protection, first of all, there is no protection. I think we're all completely violated. Like our safety, our protection is completely violated by the state. And just by being an Israeli and where you live, you are not safe. You are not protected. You may live under the illusion that the state is taking care of you in different ways, that the army is there to protect you. And I'm not talking about the actual soldiers. They could be my family members or my friends, right? But I'm talking about the entities or the organizations at large. They definitely are not there to protect us. They serve someone else with other interests or agendas. And we've seen that happening in the past few months. Now, I also think that the way that Israel is behaving or conducting itself over the past 7 months is horrible. And a lot of people will hate me about that too. And that's my opinion. And I think that we are going to be, I mean, Israelis and Jews are going to suffer tremendously because of the acts of this government for a long, long time to come. And if I zoom out and I look at the role of the Jewish people throughout history, and I'm not talking about ancient history, but more the recent history, the last century or so, and maybe even hundreds of years ago, it almost feels to me like Jewish people had this role or symbolic role of being proven again and again that they could be taken advantage and become slaves, like in Egypt and then like in Europe lately and in many places. And they take on that role. People oppress them. They are being oppressed. I'm not saying that my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. People oppress them, of course. Evil forces are playing their game and they're oppressing them. But there is something in the Jewish spirit, in a way, that is taking on that role, in my opinion. And again, it will not be popular. That is embracing the consciousness of we are haunted, we are being chased, people are out to get us. And then we have all the legitimacy in the world to protect ourselves because we are not safe, because we are hated, because we are oppressed. And again, it's very hard to say what I'm saying because there is a fine line between what actually is being done to Jewish people to the role that Jewish people accept on themselves. And I'm talking about the collective consciousness. Obviously, you cannot put a blanket over all Jewish people. Not everyone is the same. But if you look at it collectively, then I feel like there's this miserable fate, in a way, that Jewish people have accepted. And we are reliving that. Reliving that destiny in a way. And it's like, in a way, it's karmatic. And I think that it's up to people like us to get up and say, enough. I will not be violated. I will not be oppressed. I will not be lied to or manipulated. I will not be taken advantage of. And I don't need you, dear politician or dear state or dear government or dear unelected politician or whatever, to dictate my freedom and my protection and my safety and my sovereignty. I can handle these things on my own. And that's part of the awakening. And I think that if Israelis and Jewish people start to discover that strength within them and that power within them and that maturity within them to acknowledge that they are being, violated, victimized, and taken advantage of, then they can start living life or seeing life from a different lens and being a lot more independent, strong, stop waiting for salvation, for someone to save us, whether it would be internal or external. Stop waiting for the government to do something, the municipality to do something, the police to do something, or dear Biden, come save us. No one's coming to save us. It's to me, it's very, very clear. And I have a lot of compassion and a lot of understanding and love to people that, listen to the stuff that I say and hate me for it or don't get me. because it sounds very crazy. I know that. But I really feel like we've been deceived for so long. Like my grandparents that went through the Holocaust and they were sold that Zionistic dream. You'd come to Israel, you'd have that safe haven. And all Jewish people around the world after the Holocaust, you come to Israel, you have that safe haven, that this is your land. And then there's this aliyah that is being made available, and any Jewish person from around the world can find this safe haven here in Israel. And is it safe here? Is it is it really? It's crazy. It's fucking crazy from the inception of this place, and you look at history, you don't want to admit or acknowledge how this land has been given to us. And again, I'm talking about the recent history. I'm not talking about the Bible and all that. Then you're prone to face conflicts with the people that you take land from and oppress and, you know, for many, many years. So I'm not surprised at what's happening. I'm not surprised at the situation. I have a lot of compassion for people who suffer and go through really hard times right now. And also to people that think that I'm crazy for saying what I'm saying. But I also feel like the only way to, or one of the only ways um, to overcome or start something new in this crazy place is by embracing peace from within and acknowledging a lot of the oppression and atrocities in your life. And by waking up to your own life individually and doing the work, you are then able, if you bring peace to your own life, then you can bring peace to this area. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, in our lifetime, but I feel like if more and more people wake up and understand that you cannot continue living life in a constant state of war and battle, you have to first bring that um, understanding of peace, like deep understanding of peace and what peace means to you in your life, and where you have struggles, and every place where you feel like you're bringing that energy of fighting and combat and resisting, and that those are the places that you need to tackle, because those are the places that if you win, if you learn something, if you learn a lesson, if you complete that lesson, then you become so much more peaceful, and you have space in your body and in your mind and in your heart to then, be open to what's next in life, to be open to other people, to help other people. When you live in constant state of struggle and conflict, you don't have space to hold anything for anyone. You're just fighting. That it consumes your energy. It's a very dense, dark, tough energy to live with and to live in. And that's how most people here are living. And when you take down your guard and you do the work and you start completing traumas and things from your life and, clearing out some space, then something new can come in. Then there's room for light. There's room for new wisdom, for new lessons, for advancing in the game of life. We're going to continue staying stuck in the same victimhood, conflict, war mentality as long as we don't do inner work to complete our traumas and our bullshit.
Well said. What are some of the avenues do you recommend to, you can say, people of Israel and Jewish people or people around the world do inner work?
You're better at that than me. You tell them what they need to do.
I'm curious from your point of view.
Um, well,
And
what I do with,
I'm asking
yeah,
this question especially because I find it easier to do it outside of the land of Israel. I find I
yeah,
find
sure.
it's when the fear, the consciousness of fear and the consciousness of stress is there's a collective, it's harder to do that work. It is, that's just the way
You're
it is.
right.
I was able to find it and keep working on myself outside. And then to have the outside perspective and to be more compassionate with what people see as an adversary or enemy and separateness, and and to me the realization that it's all the same organism having a game with itself. So
Yeah,
I'm
I think you're right that it's way harder to do it here. And as someone that travels a lot, whenever I get out of Israel, it's you need those few days to dissolve those really dense, rough energies and wind down. This place energetically is full on. So if you can travel, even if it's not too far away, go to Cyprus, go to Greece, go to Portugal, whatever. Go to somewhere else, not in Israel, to decompress a little bit
Mhm.
and be in nature. And that's something that I do a lot. If you can't travel, then go to some beautiful retreats in Israel where we can still go, if they haven't closed borders on us, which they do all the time. Our country is becoming smaller and smaller and riskier to travel in, but there are obviously places you can go. There are always places where you can go and do a retreat, or you can just be on your own in nature for a while and connect back to yourself. And you have to start talking to yourself. You have to start become friendly with yourself again, because we're so distant from ourselves. It's very hard for us to be alone. So I think being alone and talking to ourselves and re-engaging with ourselves, understanding ourselves, feeling ourselves, not running away from ourselves to different substances that will help us escape, but actually just being with ourselves. That is already a really good first step. And then I would recommend, reading some books, listening to some podcasts, or finding your spiritual teacher that you resonate with. Some people find a lot of strength in religion. I'm okay with that as long as you don't succumb to all the rules and, the things that I don't like about religion. I have an appreciation for the spiritual side, spirituality and in religion, but not to all those rules, and obviously not to the game they play about uh, who's your ally and who's not, and who you should fear and who you shouldn't in religion. Um, and then the other thing is, I guess, practice small steps in your life. Like once you understand your spiritual teaching, I mean, it's not once you understand. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. It's an ongoing gym, right? It's like if people that practice spirituality know that it's like a muscle. It's like going to the gym. So every day you take on another lesson, another exercise, and practice. Whether it's to observe stuff, whether it's to meditate, whatever it is that you choose to do on that day. And baby steps, just like embrace yourself in different distinctions and different exercises. And the other thing I like doing, and I think it's great since I started doing it, is microdosing on mushrooms. I think that's a very effective way of reconnecting with yourself, with nature, kind of lowering the volume a little bit of on life, and in a way making everything inside and outside become a little bit more balanced. I think mushrooms have that quality of calmness in a way. So like when you microdose, obviously not tripping, but so yeah, microdosing is great, I think. What else? This is me. I love flowers and plants and, my orchids. I love them. So I speak to them and I raise them and I grow them and I learn so much from watching plants and nature. And eh, I always have been like that, but it's like I have a very developed imagination. So I try to always learn something from everything I see and be open to life in unexpected ways. Start noticing again the stuff that is obvious to you, like when you walk down the street and you know your way because it's the street that you live on. You don't notice anything. You're on autopilot. Just start noticing new things, the colors of the rooftops, or or the trees, or the color of the sky. Did they spray the sky today or not? There are many things that you can start noticing, so you can practice in being more awake to life, like in noticing stuff. And practice learning, because I think this is a critical one. We forgot how to learn. Because of the technology and because of social media and because of the internet and because of how advanced life became, we totally forgot how to learn. And also because of the way the education system is designed, we are being spoon fed with certain type of information and not really allowing ourselves to wander to the places that we find important or interesting. And so I think we need to rediscover how to learn. And that's a very, very critical and great skill to have. When you rediscover how to learn, you can learn anything and you can master things and you can absorb a lot more and things become a little bit more simple because you don't have to trust anyone's word. You can just go learn it and see if it's true or not, for you at least. So learning is a really, really good skill. And then you can learn spirituality very fast. I mean, and again, it's not like something is, one time learning and it's done. It's an ongoing journey, but you can be open to learning new things. And you can always exercise your critical thinking and decide that this is not something that is for you or resonates with you and move on to the next thing.
Mm.
What else can you do? Yeah, connect with your body. So take care of your body, what you eat, and how you feel, and exercise if you can. I haven't been really good at that. I mean, I'm doing my exercise every morning, but not enough as I would have liked. Um, yeah, and speak truthfully. That is another skill that we forgot how to embrace. We forgot how to speak truthfully. We cover up so much. We design our language and our words to fit the person that we speak to. We try to please someone, so we say less or we don't say. We tiptoe around certain topics. We don't mention certain topics at all. And we sometimes say things we don't mean. Many times we say things we don't mean and we lie. And so speaking truthfully is another muscle that you want to get stronger. You want to practice speaking truthfully. It feels really, really liberating to speak the truth. And I've been exercising doing that a lot. And it feels really great. And I'm not talking about being offensive. You can still speak your truth without offending people. if you come from a place of respect and honor, and you're not trying to get anyone convinced on something, or you're not trying to sell someone on anything, you're just speaking what you feel is your truth, or what is information that you know to be true. You don't have to agree. I mean, you don't have to get agreement from the other side. It's a free will, right? You respect them, you honor their choice to take it or not, but you put it out there and you say what you want to say. I do that with my mom now, because my mom and my dad are the ones that are triggering me the most, obviously, like a lot of people. So I say more, and I say things that I haven't said before,
Mm.
and it feels so good. And I also say it to people that disappoint me sometimes. Yeah. People that have done things that I would not expect them to do as friends. I'd tell them,
Mm.
and not in an offensive way. I just tell them straight up. You're like this. You did this. You did that. I would never do that. This is not
Mm.
friendship. Bye bye.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. So many things. I want to add a few that came to mind while you were speaking, and on the last thing that you've spoken about with truth and being in integrity with ourselves, in authenticity with ourselves, which I understand can come, avoiding speaking the whole truth and lying comes from fear, and comes from nervousness,
Yeah.
and being in fear and being alone. So we get back to being alone, which we spoke about in the beginning, is just very hard. Connection in life is is a very important need of living, of being alive,
Yeah.
of feeling supported to speak our truth, to channel the divine truth that is flowing through us, that we feel in our gut. And one thing that I want to speak about is the nervous system that we have. The nervous
Mm-hmm.
system is something to, again, flex like a muscle. And a good way to look into is you can look into strengthening what your nervous system throughout many, many things. And one of them, for example, is doing all kinds of breathing exercises. The more we can be aware of our breath and be able to control our breath in those times where we feel that discomfort in our chest and in our stomach, and the energies are getting super high and we're ready to just get into fight or flight. And fight or flight can be just an argument. And I joke when I tell people, like, you'll go in coffee shops in Israel and you'll see people yelling at one another. They're just having a conversation. They are heated up. Their nervous systems are not in the parasympathetic. They're not calm. It's not very conducive to having a real conversation where we want to call out our friends and our family to be more sensitive to us, and not sensitive in a way of just crying, just being more feeling our energy and feeling it to how we're feeling, to have a more, as you're saying, a uh, more harmony in our relationships, in our lives. And so breathing is one. And yes, of course, there's some physical exercise that can be done. And also, I want to speak about digesting our thoughts and digesting our emotions. And there are certain people that we can find as trusted allies, and whether that's going to be a partner, and I'm thinking about your boyfriend, who sounds amazing, and have that strength. And for whoever that might be, that may be in let's say Israel, somewhere that it is tough, or maybe that's going on a trip somewhere and decompressing for a while. And an exercise that I like to do with my wife, that I've learned from my mentor, who is 84 years old at the moment, is called the monologue exercise, where one person speaks for a certain amount of time, say 15 minutes. We start a timer. We're in sacred space and we're just listening, just like the way Efrat is listening to me right now, and paying attention, looking at one another, while the other is letting the tape run out, the tape of
Yep.
all the thoughts. Another way to do that, beyond having somebody holding that space for you and listening to you, which is amazing if you're on your own or you don't have that person at the time, is journaling. Journaling to just dump
Mhm.
it out, dump it out. As if I was saying, when we dump it out, we make room. Now we're the heaviness and the darkness and the confusion goes out, and now we have room for being more even keeled. And of the most important places, actually, from what I see in living, is the space between thoughts. that is where we can make the most out of receiving the subtle messages that the universe have for us, and then the emotional bodies, which is the emotional digesting our emotions is very, very hard. It's been very hard, especially in the months and weeks following October 7th, for me, being away from all that heavy energy, and being in the heaviness of, as you said, with family and having different opinions and having the conversations where showing empathy for a side that they have so much fear of. And it's so complicated and so multi-layered. So finding ways to digest our emotions, to actually feel our emotions completely until they transmute, until you can say Gaia or Pachamama or Mother Earth, take it from us and transmute the darkness into light, making room for more light to be absorbed and held within us. I speak about the path to enlightenment, and some people think about somebody on a mountain or Jesus or Buddha, whoever they might be, but enlightenment is just being able to hold more light. And what is happening in the world right now is we see, as you touched on, Efrat, more darkness because there is more light. It's just going down to the basement
Yeah.
with a flashlight and like, oh, I didn't realize the skeletons were here. They were there the whole time. We have been shackled the whole time. We're still shackled in a lot of ways, and we have the illusion that we're not. Perhaps in some ways we have more freedom. In some ways we don't. I think overall, and to the Schumann resonance, we are experiencing more light, and more liberty is coming, and that's on an individual level, on a consciousness level. It changes. But yeah, some things that came to mind. So have some people you can talk to, who are going to listen to you. Journal, find some breathwork exercises, find some places of energetic peace that bring you peace. Get in the ocean, and when you notice your fears, I think when you have the capacity for it, go and dive into those. And one more thing I want to touch on, and I am back on social media, and some people would know, and I'm doing what I need to do to meet people where they're at on Instagram. I got off social media and all the news sources for a long time. And yes, I don't live in Israel, but there were all kinds of riots in where I live in Atlanta, and my family would be like, "You're crazy! You're gonna get yourself, in danger." I think have the faith, however you go about it, that you can consume less noise, and that's going to bring you more joy and more safety and more peacefulness as time goes. Figure out how to limit yourself. Do a social media fast. Do a news fast. Do whatever they may be. The more input you're taking from the universe, the harder it is to listen to your own voice. And by the way, Efrat's podcast name is "You're the Voice," which is really how I found her. So yeah, some thoughts, some reflections, and what I do. Yes, I guide people to do inner work into their heart, into their parts of themselves, to awaken into the nature of this universe, the nature of what's going on in here. So, hence I'm sharing this.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Can I add something to what you said about breathing? I
Absolutely.
think I think that's how you bumped into me when I interviewed the amazing Maya Alper to my podcast, and she has described how during the horrible October 7th she was hiding from the terrorists inside a bush for 6 hours. They were right next to her and they didn't see her, and she meditated and did breath work during that time, and she survived it. And it's a mesmerizing 1.5 hour episode that I had the privilege of doing with her, and learning so much from this young lady who's an old soul in my view, uh, about the importance of being connected to yourself and breathing and um and meditating. It was just amazing. So from time to time I interview people that we can all learn one or two things from, like Maya, like Lino, who his brother was murdered during October 7th. Those are really amazing episodes that I had the privilege of doing, and I'm gonna and it's funny because most of my podcast is about money and Bitcoin and health and things like that. And all of a sudden, I pop in this episode about spirituality or, breathing and whatever. And because I don't care. There are no rules. Who said that my podcast needs to be about one thing? It's about you are the voice. I need to give you the stage. We need to learn from you. And it's working out really well. And I'm going to have more episodes like that I interview people that have amazing spiritual lessons to give us. And the other thing I wanted to say, just to add on to what you said, another really great tool for me anyway, and not that I can control it so much, but when it happens, I'm very happy, is crying. Is when I cry, I feel like I'm clearing out and cleaning out so much that is being held. Um, and I had that a lot over the past year. And I'm talking about a good cry, like really letting yourself cry and not feeling like an idiot or feeling like you shouldn't be crying or you should stop crying. Just let yourself cry out. Like really weep, a good cry. So I think that's a really good practice. If you get there, let yourself cry. Um, and the other thing is, the last thing I wanted to add is about being safe, because you asked me if I'm feeling supported. And to me, that relates to feeling safe. And I said before that no one's safe, that we're not safe here. And at the same time, I feel the safest I've ever felt. I feel loved and so safe and so held and so trusted and supported more than I've ever felt in my life. And I don't have the external receipts to give you of why I feel that way. It's all internal. It's all, I guess, spiritual. I feel very safe. And even if I travel now, and it's not because I'm in Israel and that's the safest place for Jewish people. No, no, no. If I go overseas and an hour ago there was a rally there for, I don't know, pro something that is not where I live, I would still feel safe, because the way I live today is I'm here, I came here, I reincarnated now. I am here to fill my purpose, my duty, my mission. I know what it is. I found it, thank God. I can relate to it. I am in it. I'm walking my path. I'm doing the best I can. I'm living it every day. And if it's my time to go, I'll go. And it's okay. And so I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of something happening, because I know that it's just part of the bigger game of life. Death doesn't mean that life is over. There is life all the time, always. So I'm not living in fear, or fear of not being safe. I feel safe all the time, because what needs to happen happens. What needs to happen happens. So
How
yeah.
beautiful. I love that perspective and lifestyle that you live. Before I forget, when you touched on crying, a lot of people tell me that it's hard for them to cry, and I understand. I do have a few recommendations on how to induce crying or laughter, or just really get into your deeper emotion. And there are some medicines that I work with. They're fully legal, at least in the United States. I don't know their state of legality in the state of Israel and other places. So I'm going to mention three of them. One of them is called Hape, spelled Rape in most places. It's a Brazilian tobacco snuff with some ashes and herbs. It's usually administered in a powder form into the nose. It goes up into the sinuses. It's really healthy on a physical level. To me, almost every time I do it, and I've done it for 21 days in a row, around a few months ago when things were really tough emotionally, to ground myself at the end of the day and to let my emotions. And almost every day I cried during it until I would
Wow.
I would do it. I wouldn't cry. I would feel so heavy a lot of times, just off and on. I would barely get anything done. Matter of fact, I'm about to relaunch my second season of the podcast, and thank you for being on it. And I recorded some episodes in September of 2023, October of 2023. Maybe it was just maybe one of them in September. The rest of them after October. And it was so hard for me to get the things that I'm doing together and the podcast and to release them. I'm doing a bunch of other things and they take priority. And so I finally found a place of getting myself together and getting my ducks in a row with the amount of projects that I'm taking on. And so yes, Hape is one of my favorite tools. Another one is called Sananga. Those are eye
I've
drops.
done this, by the way. I've done
Which one?
rapé once.
Once? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
in Mexico when I
mm,
was there a couple of years ago.
what'd you think?
I thought it was like taking wasabi in a way.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like wasabi up your nose. It's quite the experience. It brings you to the here and now. It brings you
Yeah,
to the present moment, which
yeah.
I like to speak about the present moment quite a bit. It's in the name. It's a present. To be present and not to be ruminating about the past or worrying about the future is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Being present actually with in this space between thoughts. I can speak about that for a long time. And so, in like a lot of medicines, if you do it once, you kind of, you get to know it for the first time. It's kind of it's like a handshake. You develop a relationship with all kinds of energies, and Hape, it has so many varieties. There are all kinds of ways to go deeper. Another one is Sananga eye drops. Those are made out of tree bark. They do also burn, actually like hot peppers in your eyes, and they
I
clear it.
did that too.
Love it. What'd you think?
It was quite unreal
Yeah.
to see it, like your eyesight becomes sharper for a while, I think. It burns like hell.
Yeah. It does.
That's what I remember.
Well, there are different strengths to it, which means it's just diluted to different ways usually with colloidal silver or I forget at the moment, it escapes me. But anyway, so those anybody can look it up, and I'm gonna throw a link to where I buy them. It's Shamanic Supply here in the States. They're very cheap, both of these medicines. You can administer it to yourself, or you can go somewhere. I host all kinds of circles sometimes, and I give those in my retreats. The last one, also, they're usually in just like Efrat said about the waves. They're usually it's the hard things that get you to that place of relief. I see life in like we get into the pain, like we really let the pain be, and then the relief, amazing relief comes. And then that's combo. That's frog medicine. That we burn some dots on the skin, and when I say we, I'm a practitioner, but people burn dots on the skin, and they apply this frog secretion that has a lot of peptides, short chain amino acids, very healthy. But they induce this quite gnarly purging, usually in the form of throwing up or number twos. Um, and those also can get you to that place of crying, just really expressing yourself. There's a lot that is being let go. So those three came to mind when you spoke about crying, but specifically Hape is the one that gets me to that place almost every time, especially if I feel heavy. It'll be immediate. And I love on the connection part, I love having somebody. It's nice to do it on my own, but and sometimes usually with my dog. Um, but it's nice to have somebody there. I can think, and I host men's retreats of the amount of times where the guys or somebody comes, behind me, just gets my shoulder as I'm just kind of squatting and crying like a little child, and it feels so good. It feels so relieving. There are no words to express it. I'm sure people know what a good cry feels like.
This is so embarrassing, but I'll tell you anyway. About a week after October 7th, I was supposed to go to Amsterdam to speak at a conference, and I was really debating whether to go or not. I went finally, and after my talk, I was very stressed because of everything that was happening in Israel and Gaza, and people were attacking me online for an interview I did, speaking about what I was speaking about. They didn't like it, but the Israelis. Um, so I was very, very sensitive. And I just come off stage and I was like all held up, completely tense. I was sitting in the speaker's room. And then this older lady came to me and she's like, Efrat. And I'm like, yeah. She said, I'm one of the organizers' mom. She came from the US to be at the event, and they knew that I'm going to come there because I was on the speakers list. and they knew that I'm from Israel. They're Jewish, and they have this special connection to Israel. And she's like, I just wanted to say hi to you, and I wanted to tell you that you're safe and don't worry, we're here. We're taking care of you and we're with you and everyone that came from Israel. And, we're just here for you. And I'm like looking at her, and then it all burst. I started crying. When she hugged me, we were there for like a minute, hugging, and I'm crying and crying and crying because it felt like my mom, it felt like
Mhm.
someone I could trust and just let go. And I just cried out, and it was so good. And she was so amazing. And I'm going to see her again soon when I travel to speak at another conference.
So
So
beautiful. Thank you.
sometimes crying with strangers is
Mhm.
also, yeah, it's a good relief.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't see it as embarrassing at all. I think um, it's a great anecdote to share with people that also understanding that feminine nurturing quality doesn't have to come from your biological mom.
Yeah.
The same about the masculine energy. Those can come from different people, from different. They can come from trees. They can come from the ground. But yeah, it's a connection between people. I can't stop emphasizing of finding the ones that resonate with you and are truly there to be there for you, and that you can grow with, and that you can express yourself is so, so important. Um, yeah, I mean,
Sometimes our loved ones and those people that are really close to us, like your wife, my boyfriend, they're the people that could put a mirror in front of us to really help us let go of some limiting beliefs or fears that we have in a very constructive way.
Mhm,
If you allow it, if you really open up and allow it. I know that thanks to my boyfriend, I was able to start the process of letting go of my uh, all my issues about my body. Like I was constantly, thinking that, I'm too fat, I don't look good, blah blah, all the usual crap that, people have and women have. And one day he just looked at me and he said, "Listen to me and you listen carefully. If you ever talk about your body like this again, I'm going to give you a slap in the face. You stop talking about your body and about yourself like that. And look how amazing it is." And through the appreciation and the love that he had for me in his eyes, I could see what he's talking about. I could feel it. I could understand it, and it helped me starting that process of letting go of that stupid dialogue that I had. And that was one example with him, and the second example was the fear of, what people will say about me. In my profession and in my life in general, I'm putting myself out there all the time on stages, on my podcast and everywhere, in writing and speaking out. And from time to time, I had challenges about, what's gonna happen if I say this? What's gonna happen if I do that? Da, da, da. And he coined this beautiful sentence for me that I always use as my mantra. He said, "If you want everyone to love you, you go sell ice cream on the beach."
mm,
But that's not what you chose to do in life, right? You're not selling ice cream on the beach. So not everyone's going to love you, and that's fine,
mm.
right? And so that's a reminder for me about how we're seeking like approval from everyone and wanting to please our audience or people that are listening to us because we want everyone to love us. But that's not life, and not everyone has to love us, and it's fine. And what's more important is speaking out.
Mm. I want to touch on one more thing here to speak about love. And what I found, and I learned it from a teacher that I am very grateful I got to see in person, Michael Singer, author of a couple of books about spirituality, is that when people say "I love you," what they're really saying is "I love how I feel when I'm with you." I feel good when you act a certain way. I feel good when you're serving me ice cream right there when it's hot, and I want to cool off with some flavors that give me ecstasy in my mouth. Um, but really, and in a love relationship, and call it a romantic relationship, whatever that might be, I see the greatest relationships are the ones where um, the couple helps one another individually grow and go through that growth and support them in their growth on their individual path, have their love, and yes, the to most relationship, a minimal physical attraction, it would be beneficial. I don't think it's the most important thing, but it helps. Just being pleased sometimes visually in that way. Looking at somebody, I mostly look at my wife, and I'm happy with that. She has to look at me, and as I'm aging and balding, that's what she signed up for. At least she enjoys how I'm helping him grow. And so, yeah, that's something to think about, like how we feel when people say, what does it mean when people say I love you? What they think, they just want to leave people with that message, and leave them with how you're living your mission. I think that's when we do our greatest service to the greater good, to the universe, and to ourselves, is when we live in this place. And I often refer people to this word called ikigai from the Japanese culture, of doing what the world needs from you, what you're good at, what you're gonna be paid for, and what's the last ones, what you're good, what needs paid for.
You're the zone.
There's something else there that escapes me at the moment. But look it up. I'm gonna, of course.
And you're, I think you're the space of genius, like where
Mm,
you're in the
what you're
zone,
good at.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Needs from you, paid for. Yeah, there's something else in there. But I'm gonna share the link to that visual. There's also a little book um that speaks more about it. And I'll encourage everybody that I speak to really to find that place for them. You're eventually, just like if Efrat is living our mission, the world is gonna come together and organize itself. There's gonna be enough
Mhm.
supply and demand for what you're doing, and you're gonna live with more inner peace, with less worries, with more trust and faith in the universe and everything. Whether your physical body may feel like it's not in the safest place, or criticism is coming, all of those things are slowly going to fall apart when you truly live your mission that you came to be of service here on Earth. And I want to take that opportunity again to thank you, Efrat, for what you're doing, for coming on the show today. My wife is extremely excited to listen to this episode. She loves what you're doing. She says, I can't believe she's come on your podcast. She's such a badass. She's so inspired by you."
Who said that?
My wife.
Oh,
Yeah, and and
wow.
and she was born here in the States. She's of a mixed heritage from South America. And yeah, she has a lot of appreciation for you. It fills our
Wow,
heart,
thank you.
and we have been sharing your work with people from all walks of life here in the States, of all religions and all beliefs and all states of opinions about so many things. And you
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
thank you. You bring such a refreshing and authentic, and to me, the only really the only source for me to actually know what's going on in the place that I was born in and where my family resides, and a place that is dear to my heart, and a place where I see some of my service in this lifetime for sure. And so a huge, huge thank you. Is there another message you want to share with our audience before sharing where people can find you?
I just want to reinforce what you said with, if I started this new second journey of my life without knowing that it's going to work out, without knowing what kind of results I'm going to get, both financially, economically, and, and my day to day routine. And I just was diving into it, just into another wave. And life is just falling into place. So it's happening, and I get support, and I find that this is a job. It's just the best job in the world because it's what I want to do and what I choose to do. And life is just rearranging itself to fit my will, which is quite unreal. So I'm very, very grateful. And thank your wife for me, please. And to everyone that's listening, thank you so much for listening and for supporting. Yeah, you can follow my podcast, You're the Voice. We'll put a link in the show notes, right? It's on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. And now with like 150,000 followers on all my channels, on Twitter I'm very active. in English, just in English. I have Telegram channels, I have Instagram, blah, blah, everything. And also some safety places where if I'm being censored, I can speak freely. There's a new social media network called Noster based on top of Bitcoin, and it's uncensorable. So I'm there as well. So you Bitcoiners that are listening, I'm on Noster. You can follow me there too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Efrat, thank you so much for being here, for living your mission, which I, may not resonate with everybody, but this is God's will or the consciousness will. I think beyond your individual free will, your soul's free will. So thank you for letting the universe play you like the violin that I'm borrowing this from Bernardo Kastrup. That you're doing. You're being the instrument of consciousness that serves its mission fully and bravely, courageously, and beautifully. So thank you. And thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. Check out Efrat's work. It's amazing. We'll help you awaken.
Thanks, Yoni.
Until the next time. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope this conversation has supported your journey to wholeness. For full show notes and to explore all my projects, visit yonihavana.com. If you found the show helpful, please leave a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support helps spread awareness, healing, and awakening to others. Much love and gratitude.